Amazingly, okay, we're going to watch a little bit of propaganda from Times Radio. What are they doing? They're lying directly to your face. Title, lie. Content, lie. And who are they? Well, Times Radio, of course. You know, they're owned by the same people. Let's go and check out. Did the Houthis strike a Russian ship? Hmm. Don't believe everything you hear and see online. We're entering into the world and realm of fifth generation warfare. There is no turning back. Welcome to NEWSPASTY with me, Johnny Vedmore. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look at this dog-like face. He's long-faced. He looks like, why the long face, fella? Oh, well, he'll tell you why the long face, won't he? It is the Houthis. They're striking the Russian oil ship. They're reporting it on the Times Radio. Is it true? This is literally called Houthis strike a Russian oil ship. Mm. Welcome to NEWSPASTY with me, Johnny Vedmore. And what are we doing? Well, of course, we're looking at Times Radio and look at the silliness of it all. This guy is going to tell you about something that's happened. Of course, you've got all of this issue in the Gulf of Yemen, is it? It's where all of the violence is kicking off. The ships. The ships can't get through with all that delicious oil. Bring us the oil and the cargo. Can you imagine all of those teddy bears coming to be used in different fairgrounds around the world, coming all the way from China and India, all the way around there, and getting up and finding themselves to struck. That's what they say. This literally says Houthis strike a Russian oil ship. That's what they say. Do you know what the definition of a strike is? Let me go. Click, 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 click. I've already done it. I'm lying to you with the clicks. But click, 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 click. Let us go to the definition of strike online, shall we? And what does it say? It says strike. 1. Hit forcibly and deliberately with one's hand or a weapon or other implement. To hit something with a weapon. Oh, would you believe it? So you have to hit to strike something. I don't know if you've ever heard the term strike. It's when you hit something, isn't it? You know, strike. I've heard it a few times in a few different games, especially. Like, so we have strikers. What do strikers do? Yeah, they strike the ball. They hit it very hard, don't they? They don't attempt to strike or almost strike. If they say they strike, it means they've actually struck. Wouldn't you believe that? So, this title by Times Radio already says Houthis strike a Russian oil ship. Strike. But the other news says they target a tanker carrying Russian oil. So I'm interested to hear how they pose this because no Houthi missile has struck a Russian tanker in this situation. But that's what they're titling it. I've seen this before with Times Radio, especially. Let's do this news pasty. Mr. Dogface, what do you have to say?
Many of these attacks have been random. They've been on ships that have no connection to Israel. And in fact, last night, after this first round of strikes, the Houthis launched another missile at a ship in the Gulf of Aden. This was a ship carrying Russian oil.
Well, I'm very confused already because they're saying they have no, nothing to do with Israel. But Houthis, are they? Is that why they've said they're going to? Is they're doing the embargo because of Israel? I thought it was because they have been attacked by the Saudis for years and years and years and years with American and British backed weapons and support. Not just they have Americans on the ground in Saudi Arabia training the troops to attack the Houthis, supplying the troops, maintaining aircraft, maintaining communications. They have British and Americans on the ground doing those things. Sounds like they're at war. Sounds like we've been at war with Yemen for years. And we've been at war with the Houthis. Well, apparently not. No, Don't be silly. Why would we need to go to war against them? No, we'll just help go to war against them. Slightly different wording lets us off any war crimes. I thought that's what it was. I thought there was a lot more to be said about that. Saudi, America, Britain. Who are they aiming at? Oh, they're aiming at British and American tankers mainly. Oh, really? Western tankers? Is that what they're aiming at? Oh, no, they struck a Russian tanker. Did they strike a Russian tanker? No. It landed 500 meters away. Oh, really? 500 meters? So they didn't strike a Russian tanker? No, it was an accident. But you were titling this Houthis strike a Russian oil ship. This is fake news. Fake news. Like fifth generation warfare about warfare. The first thing they try and do is make you think this is connected only and solely with Israel and rewrite history.
Russia, which has denounced the American strikes, the British strikes on the Houthis. So this campaign, despite the sort of protestations of the Houthis, this campaign has been a random one, and the Houthis are doing it in part to push their own domestic and regional interests, to boost their standing in the region, and to give them perhaps a stronger domestic position in the ongoing civil war in Yemen.
Now, the Houthis.
So what has that got to do with Israel? You heard him at the start. He comes straight in with Israel. Well, maybe it's contextual. They like to show a clip at the beginning of the Times radio, and maybe they didn't show us or think about showing us the context of that clip. Here you go. This is a dull soulless man about tell us some stuff. Go on, dull soulless man. Tell us a life. Tell us how to live our lives. Tell us what we should believe in the most confusing way possible.
Police have said that there will be a strong and effective response to the strike. So let's speak to Greg Karlstrom, the economist from The Economist, a Middle East correspondent. He joins me from Jerusalem. Greg, thanks for giving us your time.
Thanks for having me.
Can you take us through what we know about last night's attack and the reason behind the strike from the US? It was an extra strike, from what I gather.
It was, and this one was just an American strike.
Just to mention, this is called Houthis strike a Russian oil ship. And the first thing they're doing is telling you about Americans actually doing a strike. And they haven't reported that in the title. So it's not Americans attack Yemen, which is, I think, a bigger story. Not sure about you, but I think America attacking a country when they with no congressional oversight is probably a big story. Britain the same. What's going on?
Like the night before, where British and American warplanes were involved, the Defense Department and...
So the British and Americans were involved, but it's still not titled Britain and America attack Yemen. It's actually falsely titled Houthis strike a Russian oil ship. You see this madness, you see these twists, you see these Economist and Times Radio. They come together, they illuminate, they are greatest misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, mismaldisinformation. Let's call this mismalinformation or malmisinformation, shall we? Because I think it's not very nice. Actually, they're disinforming you, aren't they? So I suppose this is mismaldisinformation.
America says this was an attack with Tomahawk cruise missiles. They attacked a radar station in Yemen. They were describing it as a follow-on attack to the first round of strikes on Thursday.
That's good. Each one of those missiles probably cost between 100 to 200,000, maybe even more. Some of the missiles, like the JASM missiles that we used to strike in Saudi Arabia, were $1 million each. That's our tax money going to attack a country we've not agreed to attack. Oh, what's this? I know, it looks like Western hegemony to me, backed up by military aggression. How wonderful!
Thursday night, so suggesting it may have been a target that they meant to strike on Thursday. And
come on, you nodded dog, tell us something.
It seems that these are not just one-off, not just a one-off thing on Thursday night, that there might be more appetite to do follow-up strikes in the United States. But I think the question for everyone
more
in
appetite.
This international matter.
Is there any appetite to attack a Middle Eastern country in the United States? There might be more appetite. What type of appetite? Well, the appetite we don't go to government about. How are you doing these strikes in a sovereign country? Oh, it's complicated, but we don't need to ask the people to do this because we're just going to do it. We don't need to. There might be more appetite. How do you know there's more appetite if you're not asking anybody? Shh. Everybody's got an appetite in America. We know this.
Maritime coalition right now is just how far they're willing to go, how long they're willing to sustain a campaign of strikes in Yemen if it turns out that these initial ones don't deter the Houthis from attacks on commercial shipping.
Greg,
well, it's just going to be retaliation. So this is just helps spur on a war so that Saudi Arabia, that are currently at some form of truce with Yemen, I don't know how stable that is, can eventually attack a weakened Yemen with an outward support from America and UK. So if the American UK forces keep attacking the Houthis attack back, and then eventually the British can say, oh yeah, okay, now we're involved in the war. Yes, we've been fighting in this war, helping with the murder of children for years and years and years, but you haven't really known about that. Now we're going to be fully involved in the war openly. What does it mean? Oh, missiles galore, my friend, and the military-industrial complex just keeps on rising.
What is this going to do with the conflict in Gaza at the moment? Is it going to have a direct effect?
I don't think it'll have a direct effect on the conflict. I mean, the Houthis have been saying since they started this campaign against shipping about 2 months ago that they are doing this in solidarity with and support of Palestinians of Gaza, and they have said
that's one of the many reasons that they would do this. But a lot of what he's talking about 2 months ago, that first missile fired over was due to something else, and it was like 15 miles away or 5 miles away or some shit, like it's some crazy amount of miles away. They fired basically what would be considered a warning shot in response to something else. But it makes no difference if they say, oh, we're in solidarity with the people who are our people who are disgraced in the region, who we see as our people, who we see as a fellow Muslim state. Yeah, of course. But this is about Britain and America and its involvement in Saudi Arabia, bombing Yemenis children and murdering children with no oversight from Parliament, Congress, or through a democratic system. That's what this is about.
They are only targeting ships that have links to Israel, either to Israeli firms or ships that are calling at Israeli ports. But if you look at what they've actually targeted over the past 2 months, many of these attacks have been random. They've been on ships that have no connection to Israel. And in fact, last night, after this first round of strikes, the Houthis launched another missile at a ship in the Gulf of Aden. This was a ship carrying Russian oil. Russia, which has denounced the American strikes, the British strikes on the Houthis. So this campaign,
So they launched an attack. It's no strike. Houthis strike Russian oil ship. The title of this video is a lie. That's a lie. That's a mismaldisinformation from the Times Radio, or dismal-misinformation, or malmisdis-information, or dismal-misinformation, or dismiss-malinformation. One of those is one of those. It might be just dismal-information or maldisinformation, or misdisinformation, or dismisinformation. I'm not sure. Okay, I can't quite define it, but it's one of those things. It means it's not true. It means what they're doing here is telling you a lie on the headline to drag you in as a news company. Oh, who are they attached to? I wonder who owns Times Radio. Oh, you're getting lied to by the same people who have been lying to you for 50 odd years plus. Before that, it was just different people lying to you about the same things. They're lying to you, and you're taking it in. And then in the actual thing, they're telling you a different story, a bunch of different stories. They try not to give you a reason why it's happening. They tell you all of these, a spray of reasons why things could be happening and what they've said, but not other things they've said, to disinform you, to malinform you, to misinform you, to take you away, to do multiple strategies.
Despite the sort of protestations of the Houthis, this campaign has been a random one, and the Houthis are doing it in part to push their own.
So now you're saying it's random.
Regional interests to boost.
Listen, he's just saying it's random now. Before he was saying that it was in solidarity with the Israeli, the Palestinian people, and the America and Britain. Now it's random.
They're standing in the region, and to give them perhaps a stronger domestic position in the ongoing civil war in Yemen.
Greg, what about the part that Iran is playing in this conflict when it comes to the
they
Houthis?
love
How
it.
much support have they
love
got?
it. They love it. They're like so desperate to bring in Iran because this is going to be a reoccurring theme. Hey, listen, World War III can't happen without two really important countries getting involved. Everybody's on the precipice of war, but if you know anything about war, and you don't have to do much, I can tell you what you do. Get out a game of Risk. Go on, put out the board in front of you, play it and see what happens. The same thing nearly every single time. You bring out Axis and Allies. Bring it out. Stick it down. See what happens. Same thing nearly every time. It is Turkey and it is Iran and the Middle East. That is the center of the power dynamics if you want to take control. If you want to win Risk, if you want to win Axis and Allies or any of the other battlefield ball games out there, you have to take Turkey and Iran. And do you know how many times Iran and Turkey have been taken? Oh, you're going to have a hard time, a really hard time. So they got to be on your side. So whoever side they're on is likely going to win. Now, people could say, okay, the Ottoman Empire, though, yes, that got dissolved, but we're talking about the modern day state of Turkey, which has always been the state of the Turkish people, always been the main force for what they do. And without that and without Iran, you do not take it. So, yeah, you can put in your own guys in Iran here and there, and they'll get overthrown by the Iranian people. If it goes into a war, everybody gets angry. If they go into a war against someone in the Middle East, Iran, like, there's no way can they put in a puppet. It doesn't happen. It's moments of extreme war, moments of extreme tension, moments just before big war. Those two countries are the most important countries in the world. And every big strategic planner knows this. They know this. Everybody's watching. So when they ask the question, what about Iran? What they're saying isn't only about their current situation within global politics, within the dynamics in the region, within the support for everybody from Hezbollah to Hamas to all these other factional freedom fighters on a massive spectrum of whether you like them or hate them, whether you think Hamas is the most evil thing in the world. Its leader was created by funding from Israel to counteract the socialist Palestinian movement that was so popular at the time, and that backfired on them loads. So it wasn't even like Hamas it didn't come to power because of Iranian funding. It may get it now, but it didn't come to power because of that. It came to power because Israel funded the leaders. That's really important to understand. How the power works in these regions always comes back to the same thing. What the failed pet projects of the big states, they end up being in the sphere of influence of two main countries, Turkey and Iran. And they're the Muslim countries, they're the strongest ones. They're the ones that are most likely. That's why Iraq was so important, to keep destabilizing Iraq, so you've always got an entrance into Iran. There's, Iran's a big boy. That's the one they really want to destroy. If they want to destroy anything, the West, it's Iran. Haven't been able to do it. Probably won't be able to do it.
The Houthis acting on under direct, let's say, instruction from Iran, or are they completely autonomous?
They're receiving a lot of support, certainly, from Iran. If you look at the weapons that they've used over the past couple of months to attack these ships, they've used anti-ship missiles. Those were supplied by Iran. They have used drones that were supplied by Iran. Much of the training that went into preparing for these attacks, that was taken care of by the Iranian Revolutionary.
So, you've heard this. This is a selling point, yeah? Who has supplied them with all of these guns? Oh, they've been supplied by Iran. They've been supplied by Iran. These supplied by... Okay. Let's flip it. Can you imagine if you were in Yemen? If you were Yemenis? Can you imagine? Just for a moment. Don't imagine a bombing or anything like that. Don't imagine all this conflict. Just imagine being Yemenis. And you're discovering who's funding. And it's like, so who's funding this enemy of us? Who's supplying them with these weapons that they're dropping on us for years and years? destroyed loads of our land. They've made us really poor. They've completely and utterly they've murdered man, woman, and child, sometimes indiscriminately. The Saudi Arabians have attacked us over and over again. So who supplied their weapons? Oh, the Americans. Who gave them military support? Oh, the weapon, the Americans and the British. Oh, who gave them money? Oh, the Americans and the British. Who gave them the Americans and the British? This here you're hearing here about, oh, it's all Iran, it's all Iran, it's all Iran. On the other way, it's all American Britain, it's all American Britain, it's all American and Britain, and they're both as bad as each other, of course.
Guard. And there was a ship, an Iranian ship, which was believed to be a spy ship, an intelligence gathering ship, in the Red Sea.
The British and Americans never use spy gathering ships, I'm sure.
Passing intelligence to the Houthis about the movements of other vessels in the Red Sea. So there's a big Iranian role in training and preparing and facilitating these attacks. Whether Iran is ordering them, that is something that Yemenis and analysts have been debating for years, sort of the extent of the relationship between Iran and the Houthis. Is it
They've been debating it for ages because they want to pin it on Iran, whatever. They want to pin anything that goes on negatively in the region on Iran. Axis of evil stuff, as George W. Bush pointed out.
Sort of proxy master relationship, or are they partners, but the Iranians don't always give orders? And I'm not sure there's a clear answer to that question, but it's also arguably moot at this point because they have a mutual interest in trying to raise tensions in the Red Sea, trying to drag America into a conflict there, trying to impose costs on Israel. And so whether or not the Iranians are ordering it, they are certainly happy that the Houthis are doing it. And I think will increase their support to the group in the weeks and months to come.
And what about the role of Saudi Arabia? They have tried to enforce their side when it comes to Yemen with attacking the Houthis. I think it was a year or so ago. But what about the role of Saudi Arabia? They've been seen as somebody who in the
wait a minute. I mean, I'm going to just rewind it a little bit because what about Saudi Arabia? Now, Saudi Arabia have been bombing Yemen before the truce. I'm not sure when the truce happened. I can check it out, but they've been bombing them for bloody ages. We've seen it over and over again. I would think it was from around 2019, 2020, for well over a year and a half more. You know, it's been terrible. There's been terrible war there. And he doesn't want to paint Saudi Arabia in a terrible light, obviously, because he's a propagandist. He's on propaganda radio. So listen to how he tries to like already dampen down there. This is also signaling. He's dampening down what the Saudi role has been. He's making it murky, like, oh, no one really knows this. Who knows this? Who knows this? He acts like he knows the rest. He's asking, but he's a scattershot ask. You know, oh, what about these what they called again? Saudis. Yeah, they were doing something there maybe a year ago, something, I don't know. What about them? You know, it's much different than what about Iran?
They have tried to enforce their side when it comes to Yemen with...
They've tried to enforce their side when it comes to Yemen. What sentence did they try to enforce their side?
Attacking the Houthis, I think it was a year or so ago.
Attacking the Houthis a year or so ago. So wait a minute. He's denying all of the attacks that went on before and the obvious war that was happening, where there was just basically bombing and then there was a civil war going on that was backed by the Saudis and it was pushing and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, you're ignoring all of that. Just like, oh, what was it? Oh, it was maybe a year ago. He's looking at his notes as well. He knows it's a year ago. Just read your notes. We don't care if you're not reading your notes or not. You know, your notes are all going to be the same propaganda anyway. They're going to tell your side of the truth, not the full side of the truth.
But what about the role of Saudi Arabia? They've been seen as somebody who in the region can...
Go on, bring people together.
For example, trying to calm things down.
What? Wait a minute. Is this real? And they've been seen as a negotiator in the region, the people who can calm things down. What, the Saudi Arabians? Are you kidding me? What, they could be the negotiators between, maybe they could be the negotiators between the West and the Houthi rebels. Maybe they could be the guys. Maybe it makes me want to check reality. It makes me want to check reality. It makes me want to check and to see that I'm not just imagining this. Because that is insane. What about Saudi Arabia? They're the peacemakers in the region. They love it. I mean, them and the Houthis are down. Everybody knows that. I mean, why would you not know that? Why would you not know that? They're best friends. There's Houthis and there's Saudis, and there's no gap in between, is there? No gap in between. That is amazing.
We know that, for example, they've been urging self-restraint to avoid escalation. That's what they said on Friday. What is their role in this conflict?
It's ironic because a few years ago, the Saudis would have been cheering Western
That's
strikes
right.
on the Houthis. Yeah. You had a Saudi-led coalition that invaded Yemen in 2015.
That's what I mean! This is bullshit! The Saudis pretend you get mad. Oh, man. What about the Saudis? Peacemakers in the region, World Economic Forum, Edelman barometer winners for years. They've won loads. They're really nice people. Hey, I'll tell you what. Why don't we phone Jeffrey Epstein's best friend and bro friend, Mohammed bin Salman, and see what he wants? He's got to know a lot. Hey. The Saudis are peacemakers in the region. The Saudis, they would have been cheering a couple of years ago because they were killing everybody, and they've got a truce at the moment. What world are we living in? Are they seriously saying this? I got to hear this again. I know this is boring for you. Me going crazy. My audio of me actually losing my mind, listening to this Times Radio. I mean, this is like fifth generation warfare. They report in the news here, and people who know what all of this means or have even the faintest clue about it will listen to it and be like, "Well, that doesn't make any. What type of sense does that make? What this doesn't make it?" And that's what this is for. Let's listen to it as we go along.
To
enforce
their side when it comes to Yemen.
When it comes to Yemen,
attacking the Houthis, I think it was
a year ago. And then they're going to say 2-3 years ago.
But they've been seen as somebody who in the region can be the negotiator, for example, trying to calm things down.
Missiles.
We know that, for example, they've been urging self-restraint to avoid.
Urgent self-restraint. I can't take it. I think my head's going to explode.
Escalation. That's what they said on Friday. What is their role in this conflict?
Ooh, this is
amazing. Because a few years ago,
hypernormalization.
Western
That's
strikes
right.
On the Houthis. You had a coalition that invaded Yemen in 2015.
Okay, so you're seeing the complete sea change in the narrative, not with the Saudi Arabians and the Houthis, but with the Western media saying, "Oh yeah, I tell you what, this unexplainable event that we can't tell you about at all and doesn't make any sense." I tell you, that's funny, isn't it? Now it's completely the opposite. Only a few years later, why is it? Do the Houthis feel like that? Oh no. Do the Saudis feel like that? No, they've had their PR marketing guys tell us that we should all be of the same voice. That's what's happening here. PR marketing guys, and trust me, Saudi Arabia is like run 50% on oil and 50% on PR and marketing. That's like nearly all of what they do. They have all of the Western media's pretending that they're the greatest thing in the world, even though we all know it's hypernormalization. This is insane. The people who can negotiate peace in the region are the people who are causing most of the wars in the region. And this is what they're putting forward. And these guys are changing the narrative and they're flipping it. And they're just saying, "Oh yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? We're now telling you completely the opposite of what we were telling you before." Who would have thought that? Oh, well, why is this changed? Oh, because as soon as each dynamic shifts, we have to go back and change the mismal-disinformation, don't we? We've got to add in a couple of extra bits, flip it round, make the aggressor the hero, make our friend the hero again. You know, before what was happening? Oh, they're not doing much. They're not doing much. Oh, you're supplying them all the weapons and the tactical support. Oh, yes, but they're not doing much. What are they doing now? Oh, they're negotiators, peacemakers. What are they actually doing? Bomb, 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 spy, 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 intelligence, fuckery around. This is insane. I really mean insane. What listening to this is like being right in there. Adam Curtis hypernormalization, like explained out in just one clip of this surreal nonsense that makes up the mainstream media. Honestly, one of the most amazing videos I've seen in ages for contradictions, for irony, for it's just idiotic.
To try and remove the Houthis from power and restore the internationally recognized government of Yemen. They have been fighting there ever since, although there has been a ceasefire in effect for the past year and a half or so, and that has lowered violence between the coalition and the Houthis. Part of the reason there's this ceasefire in effect is because the Saudis have come to realize the war was a failure. They weren't able to remove the Houthis from power. And they are desperate to get out of what has really become a quagmire for them over the past 9 years. So,
a quagmire for 9 years. 9 years. If you're in a quagmire, however you say it, for 9 years, then you've got a problem, haven't you? You've got a problem. You've obviously need to rechange the game. What if when you rechange the game, just happens to be when your allies start openly attacking those people? You see what's happening here? You see what's happening? Saudi's got to stop because it looks bad for them, but they can't stop attacking the Houthis. So now Britain and America are going to do it for them under some other pretext. And this whole thing, oh, you fired a missile that landed miles away, that was a pretext, and now it's become a proper backwards and forwards conflict because of strikes. This is amazing. Golden play. Golden play. The Saudis now are the peacemakers, and the supposed peacemakers who were working with the Saudis before anyway are now the aggressors, and they swap over for a bit so they can both get away with it some more. This is multipolar intelligence operations, military operations happening. This is globalism. This is what we're seeing. Globalism. Organized war through multiple nation states, being able to blame the others and make the others the negotiators and the peacemakers in between. This is all false.
Whilst the Americans and the Brits are conducting strikes against their ostensible enemy in Yemen, they are, as you say, calling for de-escalation, calling for calm, because they're worried that this might jeopardize their efforts to strike a peace deal with the Houthis. And they're also worried that the Houthis might decide to escalate this campaign, not just attacking ships in the Red Sea, but perhaps attacking targets in Saudi Arabia or in other countries in the Gulf like the US.
Oh, and then what would happen? Oh, you'd have it. Then Saudi Arabia, the poor Saudi Arabia, who've only ever been nice to these Houthis, will be like, oh, we were nice to you, and now you're attacking us because our allies are attacking you. And it's just the same thing, just swapping round. It goes round in a big circle. This is insane. If we keep falling for this nonsense, honestly, if you keep falling for this nonsense, if you keep listening to Times Radio and thinking these jabbering, long-faced dogs are actually telling you the truth, you will have to go eventually to get checked out. Probably by someone within the system who will tell you everything's fine. They'll say, no, it's all fine. It's all fine. This is what a state of hypernormalization looks like. So, I mean, you can't distinguish fact from fiction if fiction is fact. Can you?
i.e., that's something they have done hundreds of times throughout the 9-year war. It had largely stopped over the past year or so. But there's a real concern in Gulf countries that those attacks will restart now because the Houthis will want to lash out at their neighbors in the Gulf to retaliate, if you will, for
Why
this
wouldn't you?
American-led campaign.
American-led campaign.
I know you're speaking to us from Jerusalem. We are seeing a huge pro-Palestinian march taking place in London today. We've also been told from the Palestinian health authorities that there have been more casualties, around 150 in the past day. What is the atmosphere like in Israel at the moment and the continuation of the war? And more importantly, what do we know about the remaining hostages that are still being held by Hamas?
And more, that's doopy. That's doopy. So he's doing a duper delight thing here, I reckon. He's getting a little bit of a slight grin as he realizes he's got to say it. Most importantly, what about the hostages? Not most importantly, what about stopping the war and the murder of 8,000 children, all of this and all of that sort of stuff? He asks one question, oh, what about all of this sort of stuff? And then at the end, he's like, and then the reason why is most important. The reason why he gives the boost to basically the principal reason why Israel thinks it's allowed to create all of this destruction. So what about all of this response to destruction? And what about the reasonable excuse that we're giving for this?
The attitude towards the war is still broadly one of support and a desire to continue the war. There's been a lot of focus over the past couple of days here and elsewhere.
Then we're in trouble.
On this case before the International Court of Justice, in which South Africa has accused Israel of genocide in Gaza, and that's been discussed quite a lot here since Thursday when the South Africans presented their case.
Yeah, we've seen some of it.
But there's certainly no desire on the part of the Israeli government to end the war or change tactics. And if there were a verdict that came down,
no, they got momentum, haven't they? They got momentum now. There's no appetite to stop the war. Why? When you're destroying the entirety of Gaza, when you're getting through it all, why would you stop? That's exactly what they've wanted to do for a really long time. This is a genocide. Oh, there's no reason to stop the genocide for the Israeli people, is there? No. So this guy sitting in the center of Israel, commenting on regional stuff, which is so complicated, and they're flipping the narrative on you people. They're lying to you. This guy's part of that system.
Down from the court finding that Israel had committed genocide, I don't think that would really lead to any change on the part of the Israeli government. So there is a sense that this is going to be a long war, as Israeli officials have said for many months now, and they're expecting this is something that will continue through 2024. The hostages, that remains, I think, the one point within Israeli society where there is a point of disagreement about the war plans. You have a lot of people in Israel who want the war to continue as it has, but you have certainly the families of the hostages and people who support them who want the Israeli government to agree to another ceasefire like the one it agreed.
That's exactly, there you go. It's not, but they've made this now so that the families of the hostages, the best that they can call for is a ceasefire, not an all-out stop, because they also want to see destruction. So it's either slow-paced destruction or extremely fast destruction. The fact that we're going through this and they say, oh, there's no appetite, or it's only for the destruction, but you've got two different types of destruction. This is something where it's obviously war crime is happening right now. This is there is no other definition for what, if you look at the definition of a Holocaust, is mass destruction and death, usually by fire. I don't know what you think happens when a missile hits a building and explodes, but it's fire. And currently, there's mass destruction and death, which is a Holocaust. It's actually the first definition of a Holocaust, the primary definition of a Holocaust. The second is what happened to the Jews. Now, do you see a cycle, or do you see something repeating itself? I see a cycle. I see something repeating itself. Is it being talked about?
To in November that facilitated the release of about half of the hostages. It's thought that of the perhaps 130 who are still being held by Hamas, around 20 of them are already dead. There is an effort now to try and facilitate shipments of medicine into Gaza to be delivered to the hostages because there are concerns about their.
At the same time, you're bombing all of the people who are taking these hostages. All of their family are going to need those same medicines. So you've already decided we're going to destroy everything, and we don't really care. They're a sacrifice. They're a pawn to the Zionist game. The fact that there was basically zero border force, zero defense at all on the borders of the most dangerous border between Israel and Gaza. These guys just walked in, took what they want. The battles that happened inside seem to have killed loads of the hostages. They didn't care about the hostages there either. It's like they already let those people go. It's like they gave them up, let them go, and then they're like, now we can destroy you. And the hostages, it doesn't make a difference. You're a sacrifice for greater Israel.
Their medical status and whether they're receiving medicine or medical care, which most people in Gaza are not at the moment, Palestinian or Israeli. And there's a real concern that the longer this war drags on,
Precisely.
The greater the risk there is that many of these hostages will not be returned alive.
Well, what do we say to that? That is unbelievable, isn't it? We're looking at the destruction of Palestine, but you see how they did a 1-2 with us there. They said Russian oil tanker gets attacked, gets strike by Houthi rebels. Saudi Arabia. Well, Britain, America, well, whatever. Oh, yes, they're heroes, enemies. Well, who cares? Let's not worry. Heroes, enemies. And then at the end, it's like, oh, quick. Now you're confused. You're asking loads of questions. Quickly go to Israel. Go to the thing that really causes you to be like, what? I'm sitting there going, blah, 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 at the end of there, really angry by that. I've almost forgotten the rest of it. That's the trick they pull. That's what they do. That's how they pull the wool over your eyes. They make you look over here. They describe everything in this really weird way, and then they let you forget it all really quickly. They give you something that is visceral and makes you emotionally charged all of a sudden, and then you just let it all go. That's what they do there. That's the trick. And what did we see? Hey, this is NEWSPASTY. This is a new thing I'm doing now, isn't it? Because I was enjoying being behind the camera. What is the thing that they do? What is the thing that they do? They tell you what the roles are of all of these countries. They tell you what the Saudis are and what the British and American are, and none of it's true. You know, they were all on the same side before. They're all on the same side now. They're just changing the marketing. Now the Saudis are the peacemakers. You could trust the Saudis. Why wouldn't the Houthis trust the Saudis? They're the negotiators. And then they let Saudi negotiators in. What? What world are we living in? It's pretty clear the Saudis aren't going to help them, but this is another flip of the coin. The other thing, did they strike a ship? Is there a ship struck a Russian oil tanker? No. It's a ship carrying Russian oil. Now, what that means, I don't know if that actually means it's owned by Russia and it's been sold to someone else, or it's oil that was from Russia. It's Russian oil, you know. It doesn't tell you that. No, it's Russian oil tank. They say it strikes. They say strike. Houthis strike Russian oil. They don't strike. That's a lie. They don't strike. What you're just watching there is all fifth generation warfare. They want inside your mind. They want inside your mind. And they're going to keep confusing you over this because fifth generation warfare is the go-to warfare psyop. It's a go-to psyop nowadays. Over the next few years, it won't only be this whole battle that we see in the Middle East between, say, maybe Palestinian and Israel and Houthis and the West or Saudi Arabia, whichever way they want to flip it. They'll be bringing in Iran. They'll be bringing in Iraq. They'll be bringing in Egypt. They'll be bringing in everybody. Everybody. A world war doesn't work unless you've got everybody. And that's what they're doing. They're bringing everybody into play right now. Now it's escalating. What we should be doing We should be saying, where's a congressional oversight in America? Where's the right of the people to hold accountable their government? We're in Britain. Where's the right? Why are you allowed to do this? Why are you allowed to start striking things without, oh, we're protecting ships? No, 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 no. There's a lot more going on here, and we need to discuss it. Oh, we won't discuss it. That's what will go as far as some big event happens that allows them to then do it whether or not and get support at home. So they'll go to Parliament. Parliament will be like, they sunk one of our ships, so we will support you. Yeah, but what was the context of them sinking that ship? Doesn't matter now. They're the enemy. Don't be tricked. Thanks for watching NEWSPASTY. See you later. Support my work. Whatever.
Young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.